What's going on, traders? It's Ricky with techbud Solutions. Thank you guys again for joining us for another Stock Talk, Sunday Stock Talk. For those that haven't joined us before, my name is Ricky. I have a group. It's techbud Solutions. We're now a little bit over 38,000 members worldwide, and the thing that we do best is we provide a free and simple Facebook platform to share best practices, share mistakes, and promote an overall, just positive environment for both new and experienced traders. And now we're kind of diversifying techbud Solutions into multiple markets, making it accessible for everyone, and getting top gurus around the states and that excel in all different markets, and just providing that general understanding on how to be successful in that market and having like a mentor within that specific subgroup. So Sunday Stock Talk usually focuses on kind of recapping last week's trading, and then because the market is open Monday through Friday, our team gets together and we talk about the stocks that we see the most value in right before the market opens. Therefore, minimizing the amount of stocks that we have to keep our eyes on, right? We want to make sure that we keep it simple and we keep it down to the very basics, and that's making sure that we, only trade best quality stocks. Some of you might be asking, okay, well, how is it that you trade the best quality stocks? What comes down to you as the investor to set up criteria that every stock has to meet before you invest your hard-earned money. We have three rules with techbud Solutions, and that is we don't invest based on anyone else's opinion. We don't invest in stocks that we don't understand, meaning based on like hype or on catalysts that we don't understand why it's increasing. Then if you don't understand it, then simply don't trade it. And then you always want to make sure you manage your risk. Therefore, the third one is always having a plan when it comes to trading. Know where you're buying, know where you're selling, and know where you're going to cut your losses. If you guys have not perfected those three rules, I would recommend for you guys to take a step back, start paper trading, and start testing out the waters when it comes down to really getting your feet wet and trying to get those three rules down. Because if you don't know how to identify potential, if you don't know how to manage your risk, and if you don't know how to look for quality stocks, then you're not ready to invest. Does that mean that, oh no, this market isn't for me? No, it just means that you need to dedicate a little bit more time to develop yourself as a trader. So some of us that are joining us right now it's 7:51 here in Florida. I am catching a plane ride. My plane actually just landed. I think they're going to refuel it, and my flight leaves in about 30 minutes. So I have 30 minutes to do this Sunday Stock Talk, and I apologize if the connection isn't the best. Everyone always tells me that I look tired. I came to Florida to visit my girlfriend's family, and it's something kind of like to take our relationship to the next level, right? Meeting her family aside from just her parents and stuff like that. So it was definitely a true blessing. I just came here for one full day, and then it was an expensive trip, but it's definitely worth it. You can't put a price on the experiences that you have with your family and stuff like that. But American Airlines and the hotel that I stayed at definitely really enjoys putting a pretty hefty price there. So you guys are hilarious in the live stream. But dude, guys, I'm super pumped. And guys, the stock market is just something that we have a good time with, right? Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't jump into something that you don't understand. Make it fun and make it something that you're passionate about. If it's not something you're passionate about, then don't pursue it. I'm not here to motivate someone to invest in the stock market that doesn't see value in it. Something that I always talk about is only invest in what you see value in. I have real estate properties. I have a series of businesses that I'm partnered with and that I own by myself because I see value in those markets. It's just the type of person that I am, and I see value in markets, and I choose to invest in them. I posted a picture in my Instagram today, and it was me with my McLaren. And a lot of people, can say normal things like when you have a McLaren, be like, I can say very cocky things or things that can really not rub off people in the wrong way. I'm not here to do that. That I'm not that type of individual. I'm very transparent with the reason that I bought the McLaren was to resell for a profit because I've identified a profit margin. And again, I invest in what I see value in, and that's the type of person I am. If you guys saw my Instagram post, again, the link is down below for my Instagram. If you guys don't follow me already, I said pretty much when it comes down to being successful, follow your dreams and let your passion be what guides you to your success. It doesn't matter if it's monetary or not. I just want to make sure that we start the week on a green note and that we end it on a green note. So whatever it is that you guys want to achieve, see if it's something that you're going to be passionate about, set up a plan on how you're going to get there, make sure it's realistic, and then work as hard as you can to get there. Be consistent, be determined, and be driven by your passion. So let's kind of get to it. I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. It looks like you guys are killing it. I do. I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to join us for the Sunday Stock Talks. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. You guys are like, shut up, Ricky, just get to. just get to performing technical analysis. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and just jump right into it. Again, these are stocks that I see value in. These are not stocks that you guys have to trade, in no way, right? This is just me talking about my whole best practice, identifying potential and kind of planning it out. So I said top 5 stocks. I'm going to go through maybe 10 stocks, but I'm going to really focus on 5. And the reason that we're going to focus on 5 instead of 10 is because the less options we have, the more we can focus and the more we can see and kind of filter out quality stocks, right? There's thousands of stocks in the stock market. When it comes down to trading, you really just want to have 1 or 2 options. And the reason that I say that is it's always good having a series of options, but it's very overwhelming, especially for new traders, to be able to manage and kind of stay up to date where everything is going for all these different stocks, and if they're at support or resistance, or if it's a good time to sell or buy and sell, right? So again, don't overwhelm yourself. Keep it simple. Focus on the stocks that you only see value in, and just focus on 1 or 2 stocks. If those 1 or 2 stocks that you didn't, that you focused on didn't perform the way that you wanted it to, simply, for the following day, try better in what you could have done better to see what stocks did play out well, and then focus on stocks that meet that certain criteria. Again, don't overwhelm yourself. You're not always going to trade the best quality stocks. We all make mistakes, but it's about managing your risk, keeping your losses small, and when you do make a profit, to lock them in and keep that consistent, because no matter what, if you keep losses small and you're locking consistent profit, even if it's at like 3 to 4% and your losses are at 1%, overall at the end of the week, you will see a green week, because you manage your risk and you only traded in stocks you truly saw value in. Don't let other people influence what it is that you invest. There's nothing wrong with exposure, but don't let them be the final decision maker on what it is that you choose to invest in. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm sharing my screen now. You guys have now convinced me to shut up. But I'm going to be doing a 10-day analysis for these higher cap stocks, such as like Snapchat, AMD, and a series of the gold-based ETFs that we're looking at. The reason that I'm calling out Snapchat is this is a 10-day analysis with a 30-minute frequency. If you guys can see, it has a resistance at $14. We've called out that resistance multiple times. It hit $14 on Thursday. On Friday, it set a new support at around like 1150. That's really where it's trying to hold above, although it did hit lows of 1141. So this is a very quick approach on how I can manage my risk. So I know that the overall resistance is $14. It doesn't mean that it can't break $14. It just means that that's usually a point that you're going to want to sell at, because it usually struggles to break above it, right? Therefore, if we get the break, when it breaks above, let's say regardless, let's say we try to catch it at, 1150. From 1150, once it bounces, right, we want to make sure that we catch it on the sign of upward momentum. It has a 17.53 potential for profit. That's huge. Now, what's the potential for loss? Where would you stop loss out? Well, understanding that 1150 is a support, it has gone below 1150, obviously. And with these higher price stocks, they don't bounce exactly at the support. Like, let's say the support is $12. It does go a little bit below $12. So do you want to keep your stop loss at an exact number or at a percentage? So for me, what works best is with these higher price stocks, if the support is overall at 1150, but it still moves around a little bit, you can set your stop loss at, let's say, 1%. So let's say, your stop loss is going to be at 1139. Therefore, if you're trading with, $10,000, managing it at 1%, meaning that you only are risking 1%, which is $100 for the potential for profit to be able to make nearly 18%, or from 1150 to $14, your potential for profit is nearly 18%. So it's 17.5. That's huge. Is that potential, or is that trade worth it? Just know that it has done this within the past 2 days. So it does have the margin or the volatility to move back up, but doesn't mean that it's going to. If you guys see Snapchat within the past 20 days, it's been on a consistent downward trend and breaking every single support. So maybe a better approach would be wait for a break of resistance to truly show signs of upward momentum, and then trade based on that. So the approach that I'm going to take is, once it breaks above $12, I'm going to set my alert. So again, I simply right-clicked. I'm going to set my alert when it breaks above $12, therefore showing me that it's, holding above 1150 and showing signs of upward momentum. If I decide to buy in at $12, if this is a stock that I'm, watching when the market opens and it's meeting all my criteria, I'm going to cut my losses at 1%. So that means I would cut my losses at about, right below, if I get filled at $12, it would be right below 1189. If you guys could see right now during pre-market hours or during aftermarket hours, it did a pretty good job holding above 1.75. And again, just because I choose to cut my losses at 1% does not mean in no way that you guys have to cut your losses at that margin. You guys can have a tighter stop loss or even a more risky stop loss. It really comes down to what you see value in. All I wanted to expose you guys is that, within the past 2 days, it was at $14, which is an overall resistance, and now it's back at its support that it previously had around $11 to $12. Therefore, if it starts to gap up, it has a good profit margin from $12 to $14 simply. That's almost 17%. So therefore, the potential for profit, I think, is much greater than the potential for loss if Snapchat bounces. And that's the whole thing. When it starts to trend upwards, a lot of people can go based on the EMA line. So if the EMA line, if it breaks above the EMA line and it starts to trend back up, so that EMA line is this yellow one that you guys can see here, or the displayed EMA is this blue one. You guys just go under study, and then you can add that study. Again, I'm using the TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim platform. If that's at the EMA line that you guys see value in, then go for it. If you see value in it and you see that it's trending back up, if you see the potential and it's worth the risk, then manage your risk, set up a plan on what's going to work best for you, and go for it. So I think Snapchat does show potential as long as it starts trending backward. Oh, one of my alarms went off. Okay, so AMD, this is a 5-day analysis. The reason that I'm so skeptical about AMD is within the past couple of days, although, you know, I traded it twice last week and I made a profit off of it, but I was very conservative and I locked in my profits pretty easy. And there were swing trades, and I was actually locking in profits at like 2 to 3% per trade. Again, nothing huge. But now look what it's doing. So if we look at its overall analysis, so let's do a 180-day analysis. It took a huge gap down. It broke this trend that it had. It had a support and then the resistance, and it was on an upward trend. And it kept bouncing at the support and it kept hitting the resistance. So it was a very simple type of like, it was very easy to identify this trend, right? Buy low and then sell high. And it was a very common trend for a number of days, if not months. It broke that trend. It broke below the support that it had at $14, even at $13.50. Then it started to trend back down. Just know that it does have margin to even break lower down to, you know, nearly $10, as that's a previous support that it's had, as you guys can see back here. So just make sure that you catch it at the bounce and to cut losses if you see that it's not trending back up, because it does have margin to break below. Just know that this was an old resistance here at around 1150, if you guys could see a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago. So you can use that as a reference, but just know that another resistance that we will be approaching. So this would be more, if anything, like a swing trade. So let's do a 5-day analysis. This would be, if anything, more of a swing trade. And it you know, based on previous supports, you know, 1050 is an overall support. Therefore, you know, if it holds above that point, then great. It is holding above $12 right now. If it breaks below $12, then it's most likely not going to continue trending upward, and it's going to continue breaking these supports. Just know that AMD does show a very common trend of pullbacks during the morning. So if you're able to catch it at the pullback and then it goes back up to the resistance that it had during pre-market hours, that's actually something that I've, you know, talked about to a number of people before. That's a very common trend, and it's a quick like 2 to 3% that you can make within the first, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of the market open if it plays out according to plan. And again, it comes down to what you see value in. So the reason I wanted to talk about AMD is because of the support that it has. It's trying to hold above $12, and if it holds above $12, great. And it has the margin or the potential to break back to $13. The reason I'm saying 13 is 13 was an old support, which becomes a new resistance. So that is the ideal sell point, I would say, right? And then if it breaks above, if it holds above $12, then that would be the ideal buy point. So from 11 to 13, it has about a 7.5% potential for profit. And if you buy in, like, let's say anything around, like right now it's holding above like 1220. Let's say you buy in at 1220. From 1220, if you cut your losses below 12, that's 1.95 potential for profit. But if you buy them from 1220 to, you know, 13, the potential for profit's nearly 6%. So therefore, you know, it depends if that's a trade worth taking for you. It doesn't have to be. It's just an option. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. The reason I'm calling out RAD, RAD bounced right at the support that we called out. So just like it's been doing, and I can call this one out. I think I called this one out like last month or something like that. It's been a very common trend that let's go even further back. It's been a very common trend. It's bounced there 3 times, so at 220. Again, very simple, very common trend. If you guys can see, these bounces are getting a little bit smaller. Therefore, this time the resistance, again, might only hit, you know, 230 or 240 and then come back down. If you guys can see, you know, it bounced at 220, hit highs of 270, came back down, bounced at 220, hit highs of 240, came back down. You know, is that 230 now? And is that where it's going to peak out at? You know, who knows? But all I know is that 220 is a support, and then it's been on a downward trend. Therefore, you might want to lock in profits a little bit sooner if you can get in from 230 to 240. So what I'm going to be looking for let's do a 5-day. What I'm going to be looking for is right now it's holding above 230, which has, 230 was a previous support, which becomes a new resistance. So now it's a new support because it broke above it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my alert if it goes below 230. Again, just staying up to date on how the stock plays out. So I think this is Rite Aid, so it's a multi-million-dollar company, if not billion. But I'm also going to put my alert if it goes above 235, showing that it's trending back up to the 240 resistance. That's just simply what I see from the 230 to 240. It's about 5%, 4.31. So 4.31% potential for profit. And if it breaks below, 230, this is where I would keep a very tight stop loss. The potential for loss is, very low. So if I buy in at 230, I would most likely buy in at 231, waiting for the bounce. And I'd cut my losses at like 229. So therefore 1% potential for loss with a 4.5% potential for profit. Therefore that trade would be worth taking if it plays out the way that I wanted to. So, all right. The next one is going to be Macy's. Macy's was one that we called out after its earnings report. The reason why is obviously it did not do or did not meet their expectations, and that's why you saw this huge drop. Due to that huge drop, it now built this margin for profit if it plays out according to plan. And what I mean by that, if it starts to gap back up. We've seen this multiple times when, it sees a huge drop, it flatlines and then bounces back. Sorry about that. But overall, it looks like it's flatlining. It looks like it's trying to hold above $20. So set up a plan. Set up a plan that is worth the risk for you. If you don't see value in this one, then simply don't trade it. But
please check in for your seats. Gate number.
The potential for profit for it to go back to its old support is back at $23. It's going to be at 10%. And the potential for loss, like let's say you get in.
Looking for 2 parties of 2 to move to the emergency exit row. If you are interested, must be over the age of 15.
All right.
No assistive devices.
My goodness.
Gives you some extra labor. If you're interested, you have a party of 2 that currently have 2 seats together, please see me here.
But all I wanted to call out was this trend or this margin that it has to go back up to its previous support. If you guys don't see that and you don't see the value in these margin drops, then simply move on to the next one. Again, only invest in what you see value in. These are just ones that once it starts to trend back up, that's why I have my alerts. If it breaks above 21, then it's showing me that it's gapping back up, and therefore it would be a good indicator for me that it's trending back up and that potentially could be a good buy because it has all this margin to make up. So I have my alerts as it starts to gap back up. I'm probably not going to buy Macy's until it breaks above 21, and that's really just it. So again, I want to make sure that it bounces and then it starts to trend upward before I make the decision to invest.
JNUG. Good evening. My name is Pam. I would like to welcome you to the boarding area for Flight 1999, service to Phoenix.
I'm so sorry, guys.
We will be boarding by group number, which is on your boarding pass. If you could please wait to get up until your group is called and not block the aisleway. If you're in groups 1 through 4, you can go ahead and line up. If you're in group 1, go ahead and line up.
Oh.
But please, we have a small hallway here. Please do not block the hallway. Please wait
oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys.
Your carry-on allowance is 1 carry-on bag and 1 personal item. Please stow your carry-on bag in the overhead bin.
I'm sorry.
Place your personal item underneath the seat.
I'm going to try to push through and hope that you guys, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I hope.
To your final destination,
yeah, no,
please see the center desk. They'd be happy to take care of that for you. If you do check your bag here, be sure to remove any fragile or valuable items, medications, keys, travel documents,
so JNUG looks to have an overall resistance. If we do a holy crap, man, it talks so loud. Overall resistance.
We will start the boarding in just about 5 minutes.
All right, guys. So just like we've called out before, JNUG has a resistance at about $19 to $20, just like it did last time. And I called this one out perfectly, and I know a lot of the people within TechBud Solutions were out there for my call out and were able to profit very consistently. This is a stock that AMD, JNUG, and JDST are my go-to stocks. A lot of people try to, people always ask me like, hey, Ricky, like, what is the stock that, you see the most value in? These are the ones that work for me. Does that mean that these have to work for you? No. So again, you don't always have to be trading these ridiculous like volatile stocks. Trade what works for you and always have something that you understand and that you can go to. Doesn't mean that it has to be these stocks, but a lot of people say like, like what's the hottest stock, and that's always something someone is searching for. Guys, like invest in what you understand, and if it's a stock that brings in consistent like 2 to 3% profit every single day, then go for it. And JNUG, really real quick to make it simple, it's more at the resistance. I still think that it has margin to make up. I still think that it can hit about $19. Therefore, it still has a little bit of potential, but it's more at its resistance. You can see the RSI indicator is showing more on the overbought side. The one that I'm going to be looking at this week, just like I called out for this month, is JDST, which is its inverse ETF. So this one does exactly the opposite of what JNUG does. Therefore, 60 is a previous support. So again, it does drop below 60 sometimes. So what I would suggest, something that has worked for me, is to wait for the bounce. Don't try to get in at the earliest point, because there's no worse feeling of trying to get in, stop lossing out, and then it bounces right after you stop loss out. Wait for the bounce, wait for it to start trending back up, and once it does and it shows you that it's trending back up, it validates the support that you're able to identify, and it validates this margin that it can continue trending back up. Then if it's something that you see value in, then go for it. But again, I'm going to set my alerts once it starts trending back up, and I'm going to set my alerts at 61. So once it starts to bounce at 61, therefore gives me an indicator that it's bouncing at 60, or even if it bounces all the way at lows of like 59, all I know is that all I care is when it starts to bounce, it's going to start breaking these resistance levels, and then that's when I want to buy, because it's starting to trend up. I don't care about getting in at the lowest point. All I care about is making sure that I'm catching it when it's trending up, not when it's dropping down. I made the mistake last time. I caught JDST at 62, and it took me a couple series of days until I was able to lock in my profits, and that's not something that I want to do. So that's my approach this time going into this one. SQ has been on consistent downward trend after it broke its support at $25. Just know that it is trying to hold above 24, and it does have this margin to make up after its earnings report. So DNR, this one still has like 5% margin for profit. Its overall resistance is at 150. So those that like trading low cap stocks and that like day trading it, just know that it does have a support at 135. It is at somewhat of a resistance at 140, but if it breaks above 140 from 140 to 150, definitely has that margin 7%. I mean, it's up to you if you guys see the value in that one. That could be potentially a good day trade. PLUG, I called this one out, guys, and this one's, I know, again, this is one that I've traded very often, and I call out the support multiple times at $2. The reason I call it out at $2, it's been a very common trend. It bounces at $2. It bounces at, it usually bounces at $2 when it's around this area. It doesn't move too much. And I usually end up selling it at 210 or 220. Again, 5 to 10% potential. That's more than enough for me, and I'm day trading these stocks. So it looks like it's holding again above $2. So it's, again, it held above 198. So just know that the lowest point is 198. Therefore, it's trending back up. You guys can treat this as a swing trade, or you guys can treat this as a day trade. It doesn't move as much as like these other higher cap stocks or lower cap stocks, but just know that it does, based on what I see, it does have this very common trend of bouncing at $2 and usually hitting around 210 to 220 within 1 to 2 days. Understand the importance of managing your risk and only investing in what you see value in. So if you don't see value in it, then simply don't trade it. This one's also been another one, DKS. This is Dick's Sporting Goods. So again, another multi-million, if not billion-dollar company. After, I'm sure this one had its previous earning report. Oh, it has one coming up. Had this huge margin drop, and it has this huge gap to make up.
Thank you for waiting. Any concierge team members welcome aboard now.
So
also,
again, if you guys see value in this one, again, I'm just exposing you to this opportunity. It's up to you guys if you guys see value in it. Now it's course is more at the resistance. I think this one is more on its trend back down.
No photo ID is needed here, just your boarding pass.
JDST, again, calling it out more at the support. Spirit Airlines finally making a bounce back up. So again, it's trending back up to its overall resistance that it had at 41 to 41.50. Meat on a consistent downward trend. It's been flatlining at 350. So hopefully we can see that bounce within the next couple of days. All right. And I'm going to end it there. I'm getting a little bit too much interruptions. And my flight's actually boarding. So what I'm going to do is in the description of this video, after it publishes, I'm going to change the thumbnail, and then I'm going to, in the description, put the stocks that I talked about, and then the entry, the support and resistance. I think this can be somewhat useful for people to go to reference off of. And again, don't trade based on my opinion, my whole thought process. Trade based on what you guys see value in. And again, this is just for exposure. If you guys don't see value in it, then again, simply don't trade it. But I just wanted to make it a little bit easier for you guys to kind of recap this whole video. So I hope that's useful. And that's really just it. I have Ricky's the Justin Bieber of stocks.
Group 5.
But thank you guys again so much for
Group
watching.
5.
I need to board. Thank you guys for everything that you guys continue working hard, continue doing what you guys love. And I'm sorry for the people who scheduled consultation calls with me this weekend. I was extremely busy, so I had to move them for this upcoming week. So I have a very busy week. If you guys want to jump on one-to-one video calls, the link is down in the description. It allows you to pitch me your idea if you guys would like to partner up with me. Or if you guys just want me to, have a one-to-one video conference when it comes to trading stocks or real estate or starting your own business at a young age or as an overall entrepreneur, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you guys. Continue working hard, continue doing what it is that you guys love. And like always, guys, let's make sure that we're in the year on a green note. Take care, team.